Oh, everything's great with this receiver room right now. The veterans, they're being great mentors to the rookies. That's all well and good until the games start coming.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Everything is copacetic right now in the Green Bay receiver room. If you hear the coaches tell it, first it was the anecdote about Jaden Reed being a coach for Matthew Golden, helping him out, being right there behind him in every drill to make sure he's everywhere he needs to be. Then Matt LaFleur goes up and Adams with our pal Kay Adams and tells the story of he's going to go over and make a correction on Matthew Golden's route or whatever it was, some teaching point. And just as he's about to go over there, Romeo Doubs pulls Golden aside, makes the adjustment. Matt comes over and says, all good. They say, all good. And that is a terrific thing. Player-led locker rooms, player leadership is going to be essential for the Green Bay Packers as they move forward. It is what culture is built on. And culture can be overrated. The Seattle Seahawks were literally fighting in the locker rooms before they won a Super Bowl. And I think that sometimes we can put culture on a pedestal in ways that it doesn't deserve. Packers culture last year seemed to be really good. I remember all the conversations, the shows we did in the preseason in August about, the vibes seem different here. Mike Clemens, who's not prone to hyperbole, he's talking about how immaculate the vibes are. And so it must be different. Well, they won 11 games. They were the 7th seed and didn't win a playoff game. How much does that stuff ultimately matter? I'm not even focused on that part right now. What I am worried about, not worried, but what I am thinking about is the way these players respond when the games start happening and the target shares change. Because it's fine to have that new kid come in to your job or your school and you're, hey, let's get everybody acclimatized. Let's get everybody up to speed. Hey, these are the things to watch out for. This is that person. And then all of a sudden that colleague of yours is getting opportunities you were supposed to get, at least according to you. And that colleague is getting promoted into a position you were supposed to get. Then all of a sudden, are we all going to be just as chummy when that happens? Can you, as the kids would say, keep that same energy? Can you do that? It's not always easy. And this is a receiver room where already you look at the last 2 years, Jaden Reed and Dontayvion Wicks, their first 2 years in the NFL, they're used to getting not necessarily the majority of targets, but a decent amount of targets for whatever that's worth. What happens when the targets get even more spread out? What happens when someone gets marginalized entirely? Now, I think the most likely candidate for that is someone like Savion Williams, who is, yes, a 3rd-round pick, but someone who's going to have, in terms of getting up to speed in an NFL offense, a lot more to learn. Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontayvion Wicks, they're ready. They're in the NFL. They've been in the NFL. And Matthew Golden comes from a system that has a lot of similarities to what Matt LaFleur and the Packers are already running. That being said, Romeo Doubs got suspended last year. over a disagreement with his coaches about targets. That kind of thing isn't just papered over in a day. And in fact, I'm not even sure in a year. When you feel like you are not getting the opportunities you are owed, that is a difficult burn to salve. It's not easy to just move on from that, especially when the same people are in charge. I've been at jobs where I felt like the work that I was doing was good enough to earn me more opportunities. Now, whether or not that was true, look, I can't say, objectively speaking. I can't. But I know that when I didn't get those opportunities that I was seeking, it pissed me off. And I carried those things for years. And I can look back on it differently now, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now that I'm like, well, I probably should have handled those situations differently, or I wish I wish I had a different perspective, or I wish I would have handled this thing differently, or I wish I would have done this or that. It's too late. If you are going to be a competitive person, how do you not carry those things with you? If you're competitive enough to blow up at your coaches because you're not getting target share, how are you not competitive enough once the real games start? Once the passes start flying, and they're not always flying to you, do you not go, I should have got that opportunity? One drop from someone else, there's side eye. Like, that's a totally human response. And I'm not even speaking specifically about someone like Romeo Doubs. I'm talking about all these guys. Because all these guys are going to experience it, because the Packers are going to want to get Savion Williams more involved. They're going to want to get Tucker Crafts more involved. They're going to want to get Josh Jacobs more involved in the passing game. They're going to want to get their first round pick, Matthew Golden, plenty of opportunities. Can you stay ready? Can you stay focused? Can you stay locked in? Can you stay mentally in it to the point that you don't feel so jealous that it affects your play? Because I don't think jealousy, competitive jealousy, professional jealousy is necessarily always a bad thing. I think you can be driven by saying, that person has what I want, I'm going to work harder to get it. As long as it's done in a healthy way. Hey, someone else is doing the thing that I want to be doing. How do I get there? I think that's actually a very healthy step to take, so long as it's not consuming your life and creating these unhealthy habits that you're forming. If you can go, hey, I need to work harder, I need to focus, I need to study more, I need to make sure that every route I run at exactly the right detail, the right depth, the right timing, that I'm focused on making the catch and then turning and running, those kinds of things. I think a little professional jealousy, I've heard it called a lot of different things over the years. I like professional jealousy. But it's really just competition. It's really just, I'm going to prove I'm better than that person. So long as that is done in a healthy way, it can be a good thing for your team. It is going to be up to Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, and the players themselves to ensure it is being done in a healthy way, that it is being done in a way that serves the team, that makes everybody better. Because if it's not, then it becomes toxic. And then you have to make changes. You may have to bench somebody. You may have to trade somebody. And we've already had the rumors, right? We've already had the burblings about what could happen, about, hey, Matthew Golden already looks so good that you could see a veteran traded, like not out of the realm of possibilities. Now, we've talked about why I think that is much more likely, if it happens, to happen August, September even, once the games start happening and once the Packers start to see this shake out and go, okay, well, don't really have room long-term for all these guys. Let's see if we can get something of value for these players. And if you can't, then you just keep them and you move forward. It's easy to be all hunky-dory right now. I've used hunky-dory and copacetic in this first 9 minutes of the show. I promise I am not 65 years old. Sometimes it seems that way. It's going to get much harder once we get to preseason, and then even harder once you get to the regular season, because everyone is going to want to share. Everyone is going to want their opportunities. Can you stay in it? Can you use that to motivate you in a healthy way? If yes, the Packers offense can be awesome again. If not, then you've got a problem on your hands and you hope you have the leadership to handle it. Now, the Green Bay Packers proposed a tush push ban. It did not pass. Somehow, the Packers, and by extension their fans, are being blamed for this vote. And that's absurd. We'll talk about it next on Locked On Packers. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job. That's it. That's where you start. LinkedIn's new features can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Yes, it was the Green Bay Packers who proposed the tush push ban. The ban did not carry. It needed a 24 vote majority, a 75% majority. It got 22 votes. So by a margin of 22-10, the NFL wants to ban the tush push. And a couple weeks ago, when this first came up about, and it was, I guess, in March, so we're talking about a couple months ago now, I and many others, this was not a novel analysis by me, suggested the Packers were being used as an extension of league majority and the league itself to ban this play because the league wanted it banned and they didn't have to put any owner's name on it because Jerry Jones and the big time owners, they don't want to put their name on banning something, especially someone like Jerry Jones with the Eagles in his own division. They're happy to vote against it, but they're not going to propose it. The Bears, the Vikings, they voted to ban it. A lot of NFC teams voted to ban it. In fact, a lot of the teams that didn't vote to ban it were AFC teams, which I find interesting. But somehow this became a war between Eagles fans and Packers fans on social media, where Eagles fans are attacking the Packers like they're the ones scared to compete, when the Packers have adapted and used the tush push and have been the most effective team at stopping the tush push. So that's not the thing here. All of the reporting suggests a majority of teams want this play banned. Now, the Packers had to say, we want to ban it. Whether or not they actually believe that way. I mean, I'm sure they found a team in the Packers that was willing to say, yeah, we'll do this. Like, I think if Mark Murphy, who, by the way, former actual NFL player, pretty rare that you have a stakeholder in that way who actually played the game. I'm sure if he was like, no, I think this is totally fine and everyone's good and we don't want to do this, he would have said that. But somehow this became about the Packers being scared to compete, and that's not what's going on here. The Packers are acting as a conduit for the league office. Roger Goodell does not want the tush push. And our pal Louis DiBiase from Locked On Eagles is going to join us a little bit to talk about this. But I don't understand. I mean, I guess I understand why Eagles fans are taking it personally because it feels like an attack on them. And in a lot of ways it is. No one does it more. No one does it better. But this was not about the Packers going, oh, we can't stop it. And we're jealous of them. And so we're going to take our ball and we're going to go home. That's not what this was. That's not what happened. So stop saying that. Is a 22-10 vote a result in part of jealousy? Probably. If the Eagles were, getting the tush push conversions at 70%, this is not even a vote. The fact that they are so good at it and do it so much is why this has become an issue for the league. Yes, other teams could do it. They don't. In fact, a lot of other teams don't want to risk their quarterback. Aaron Rodgers did not want to sneak for a long time. He got a concussion in, I believe it was 2010. And the Packers basically didn't do it again. And in fact, been on this show going, can just call a sneak one time. The Chiefs don't like to do it. They went to the Travis Kelce, Tucker Kraft thing because Patrick Mahomes on a sneak tore up his knee. I think he dislocated his kneecap or something gnarly like that. That's why the Packers didn't play Patrick Mahomes a couple years ago. He was hurt on a quarterback run up the middle. Not every team is willing to sacrifice quarterback health, extra hits on their quarterback in this way. But this is not about the Packers against the Eagles. This is about the Packers acting as proxy for the league. And the league doesn't like it because it's not a good entertainment product. When you line up on 3rd or 4th and 1 and the Eagles are going to get it with this play that doesn't look like any other play. And that's really the issue here. Is the NFL is an entertainment product. And this play that is ultimately very valuable in the game, the conversion of a 3rd or especially a 4th down, a play that does not look like any other play. And you have one team that is doing it at an extremely high level. The league is going to go, well, we can't do that. Like imagine remember the Wildcat? Like imagine if the Dolphins could get a first down like 85% of the time they ran the Wildcat. Now they're not going to do that because that was a gimmicky thing and you're not going to average a first down 8 out of every 10 times you run it. That's just like crazy. But imagine if you did. We might be having discussions about whether the Wildcat should be allowed. I don't know even how you would go about doing that. I think there was a reasonable compromise here. I think it was more or less the proposal that the Packers made. And I still think, frankly, at some point this is going to pass. 22 votes when you need 24. Like, that's about as close as you're going to get without actually getting the thing to pass. And I would not be surprised if the league says, okay, one more year of this and this is changing. And we're done. Now, you still have to get the votes, but if Roger Goodell really wants to whip up the votes, he can whip up the votes. I don't feel strongly about it. I don't know a lot of Packer fans. I haven't seen a lot of discourse from Packer fans. The Packers played the Eagles twice last year. I did not see a lot of people saying, you got to ban this play. This is nonsense. It's impossible. The Packers defended it pretty well, and they used Tucker Kraft to good effectiveness. Packer fans don't care about this. What are we talking about? So, look, this is how this gets. It's very provincial. Fans go, oh, the Packers, this thing, we beat the Packers. They're just jealous. That does not jibe with reality. Doesn't make sense. It's not true. But that is certainly not going to stop fans from acting like fans. And I get that part of it. But chill out. I guess is what I'm saying. Chill out. This is not the Packers against the Eagles. This is the Packers speaking for a majority, by the way, a majority of NFL teams, including the vast majority of NFC teams. They do not want to see this play in the league. I personally Don't care that much, but I do think the compromise there was you just don't push. Don't push from the back. Quarterback sneak, traditional quarterback sneak, the Tom Brady quarterback sneak was lethal. Just do that. I don't think the Eagles' effectiveness would change one iota if that's what they did. And frankly, you know what I think the boss move would be for the Eagles is to say, okay, let's ban it. Let's ban it. You can't push from behind anymore. Can't push a ball carrier. And we'll still convert 85, 90+% of these. Watch. We'll do it. We'll put up the ban. That would be the badass thing for Philly to do, but they won't. They won't. All right, let's talk to Louis DiBiase. Let's talk to him about what he thinks about all of this. That's next with Locked On Eagles on Locked On Packers. The Tush push will live on, at least for now. It was a close call. A 2-vote difference between banning and not banning the Tush push. A 22-10 vote on the Green Bay Packers proposal to ban, or at least alter, these kinds of plays. Louis DiBiase from Locked On Eagles, of course, the only person we could talk to about this. And actually, I want to start there, Lou, because Eagles fans have taken this personally. Like this was an attack on the Philadelphia Eagles. If the Eagles were, say, 10, 15, 20% less effective doing this, do you think anyone would care?
No, I don't think they would. And I think why Eagles fans are taking it personal is they're the only team pretty much that's this effective at this play, that's run it to this magnitude, this not only the quality of the play, but the quantity of the play. So I think fans are feeling like it's kind of a witch hunt. And I think if the Eagles didn't have the success last year, winning a championship, that this wouldn't all be an issue. So that's why I think people are taking it personal, because it feels like it's a direct attack at the Eagles and their success, because the rest of the NFL, it doesn't feel like is really taking this play over like the Eagles are.
Is there some common ground to find here? Like clearly a majority of teams, now you need 75% to change the rules, but a majority of teams in the NFL want this play banned. Is there something you think could be adjusted where you go, okay, it's not really going to change the Eagles' effectiveness here, but at least you're giving something to these teams that want the play ban. Like, is there a common ground to find here, do you think? Maybe
just when you can use the play, like it has to be in certain, yardage situations in the red zone. But the problem with that is then you don't do that for quarterback sneaks or for fullback dives. So why is this one short yardage play so much more of an issue than other plays? I don't know, maybe like take away how many players can assist in pushing the quarterback. Maybe it can only be one designated pusher, if you will. I've thought about this actually the last few days, but I don't know. I just think it's a non-issue. If the Eagles were running this on 1st and 10, if they were running it 30 times a game, I would understand the backlash, but it just feels like a non-factor compared to these other short yardage plays where it shouldn't be causing this much of a stir every offseason. That's where I feel like personally there is some jealousy underlining to it.
And look, we're getting some reporting. There was this like quiet conspiracy theory. We talked about it on Locked On Packers that Green Bay was being used because they don't have an owner as cover for the league. We've got reporting that Roger Goodell wanted this banned, that there were some other teams that wanted this banned, but didn't really want to put their names on it because they don't want to look like, whatever, to have that be some signature achievement for their team. Why do you think the league, though, is concerned? Like, if you're hearing Roger Goodell doesn't want this in the game, what does that tell you about why you think this is happening right now?
I think from Goodell's perspective, because, I totally agree. If it's from the Packers themselves or other teams, then my brain goes to, oh, they just can't stop it. That's why they want it gone. Why the league would want it gone, I think, is two things. They don't like automation in the NFL. They don't like plays that are almost impossible to stop. My counter would be the Eagles are the only team that's perfected it to that degree. They also, I think of it as an entertainment value. I think when they watched that NFC Championship, Frankie Louvu jumping over the line of scrimmage 4 to 5 times in a row where the refs almost had to give the Eagles a touchdown, I don't think Roger Goodell loved that. So I think it's an entertainment value thing as well. But again, my counter to that is, why aren't you banning quarterback sneaks then, or boring 3rd and 1 runs right up the middle? So I don't know.
I would like to see those banned. Yeah, please,
exactly. So I think that's where their perspective is, but I still would disagree with that.
And I understand that. I felt like, you tell me what you think. I felt like the way the Packers had changed the proposal, where it's like you can't push or pull a ball carrier. And there was some reporting from Albert Breer and others that the league or some of the people that were in favor of the ban wanted the wording changed so it didn't seem like it was so focused on the Eagles. Frankly, if you go back to 2004, the NFL did institute this rule where you cannot push, pull, or keep up a ball carrier. And it was so hard to officiate that they basically walked it back in a year. But I felt like that was the middle ground where you're just like, look, Jalen Hurts, if you just let Jalen Hurts sneak it, he's probably going to get it at the same rate. Like Saquon Barkley being behind him, or, you know, whatever third string tight end you want to bring in behind him. Like, I don't think that's the difference in getting the first down or not. Tom Brady was also automatic with the quarterback sneak.
Yeah.
It's just that there's this other thing here that's added to all of this.
That's a good point. And again, I wasn't personally super passionate about keeping the tush push. My issue was the motivation behind getting rid of the play, but you're 100% right. Even if they got rid of the push, and if they did that, I would understand. The Eagles would still convert this play at 90% of the time because they have a quarterback that can squat 600 pounds and an elite offensive line. And they're not the only. If other teams just made it simple, so many teams overthink short yardage situations. If they would all just run their quarterback up the middle and use the sneak more like the Patriots did with Tom Brady, they would have as much success. So I don't even think that's like the strength of the play. I think the strength of the play is Jalen Hurts, the offensive line, and the Eagles' commitment to just keeping things simple, whereas a lot of teams in those situations will roll their quarterback to the right, cut off half the field, throw the football. So, you know, if they want to get rid of the push part, that's fine. My issue is just always the motivation behind it.
All right, thanks to Louis DiBiase for coming on. Great to get his perspective on all of this. I mean, look. There's jealousy in play here. We know that. This is not rocket science. So I think we're going to see a vote on it again. I really do. Whether or not it's going to pass, I guess we'll see. I kind of don't have strong takes on it. I kind of don't care. I would just like for this to be over. I thought the Packers provided a nice compromise, but by the way, the league agreed, just not quite by enough. All right, back tomorrow. Much more here on Locked On Packers. Follow me on all the social medias. Peter_Bukowski on Instagram, on X. The podcast is everywhere you'll find social medias. It's also everywhere you find podcasts. Go subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. Please, helps us greatly. Also, of course, over on our YouTube page, go subscribe there so you can stay Locked On Packers.